Hello, everyone. I'm Tim. Good to be here. I am a UX designer. I got invited to HalfStack last year, and it was so fun to be here and to meet a bunch of developers who are like, yeah, what engineering project are you working on? I was like, zero. I'm not working on any of them. I don't know them. I can read a little bit of CSS occasionally when it has good notes on it, which is the best way to have them. Please leave notes for me in your CSS. I work fractionally right now with startups and other teams for launches, fixing user churn, normal stuff, right? UX turnarounds, that kind of thing. I also mentor a lot of designers. And so today there is something that comes up with a lot of these designers that I end up mentoring and working with that I want to talk about. And it drives me kind of crazy. And that is about design value and especially UX decision making. And this is not going to be a magic bullet, one size fits all sort of solution. It's just like a framework for improving some of your approach on how you think about this. If you're a designer out there and you're wondering maybe why your team doesn't like to listen to you very much, or why you feel weird in the room when you're talking to developers, or even like your project manager, this is probably for you. And if you're also here, thanks for bringing my captive audience. It brings me great joy and stokes my ego a little bit. So there's going to be things we abbreviate, ignore, dismiss, pretend, or even shortcut a little, and that's okay. So a little bit about me. So I'm actually a UX designer as a second outlet for my skills. I'm a scientist. I know, very, very apparent, very obvious. And before I worked in tech, I worked in science labs and medicine. And I actually graduated ASU with a degree in biochemistry. So my college experience is kind of as depicted here, which is mostly working in like these weird lab groups. You can see you're not allowed to take pictures in a lab. So I had to go online to find these stock pictures of people inside of ASU labs. You're always wearing these goggles that are like so tight on your face. They leave these crease lines and they have little vents on the side, but they still fog up. And if you wear glasses like I do, then you got like glasses on your glasses, which is like double fog power. Which is great when you're trying to read and look at stuff and read little numbers. I also take a little issue with some of these depictions because if you see this advert here, can I take this out? I think it lives here. Okay, I'm just gonna. I take a little issue with this advert because it says here like authentic in-person science labs. Guys, I've never been to an inauthentic science lab before. I would never suspect a science lab of being inauthentic until when I saw this and I was like, gosh dang it, did I go to inauthentic science lab my whole college? I don't know. It's like, now it's a thought. You can't get rid of it. But I also love what they're doing in this picture is that beaker. I think that's empty. Is that an empty beaker she's looking at? So they've got authentic science labs looking at an empty beaker. I do relate to that expression quite a bit though. She's making like that face of, is it doing the thing? I know it's supposed to be doing the thing, but is it doing the right thing? Which happens quite a lot inside of labs. Lots of things happen. A lot of them are the wrong thing to happen. And then also you can tell this picture, labs are really cramped. For some reason, all the tables are an awkward height, so you have to like kind of stoop over stuff. And you've got these big coats on, so like your coat kind of gets everywhere. And then there's also biohazard stuff everywhere, so you're breathing in fumes all the time from stuff. It's great. So I don't work in a lab anymore, but here we are. Here we are. So let me give you a quick scenario. And by the way, this QR code, you can use this if you want. You don't need to. Don't worry. You can follow along inside the whole slide deck. And also in this case, vote. It's a little bit of like an interactive slide deck if you want it to be, except this is the only slide that has any interaction on it. So you don't really need to worry about it too much. But just imagine your team, you're building a content distribution product, a feature, solution, what have you. And it has multiple hosting platforms you have to talk to. So users need to fill out a form with a title, description. They need to upload media, add artwork, and then maybe configure some API settings for publishing, right? Multiple channels, multiple unique settings. You have to manage a bunch of individual provider and hosting settings. Your team has two solutions, and it's come down to you. You're the vote. You're the guy or the girl or the guy. You're the one. You are the one. You're the Neo here. You have to decide, will you package this as a wizard? That's like 3 or 4 steps guided, right? It's like the thing where it says 1, 2, 3 at the top. Are you going to do something like that? Or are you going to go for a single page form? everything visible, all at the same time, same page. I will give you 20 seconds. Yes, you do have to log in to vote. Sorry, if you're not, well, I'll just take a raise of hands in 15 seconds. I've never used this before. I hope it works. You can't vote. That's what they're saying. Don't believe them. Fake news. Fake news. You can vote. Okay, let's do this. So if you are on the side of you should use a wizard, raise your hand. We got a couple wizards. We love magic. We love wizards. Awesome. What about other side? You think it should be on a single page. Okay, great. I wasn't counting with my eyes, but I was counting with my heart. It looks like it was 50-50. 50-50. Guys, the truth is you could have both of these be right answers, right? And we all know that, right? I don't think anyone's like surprised or startled. Whoa, it could be both, right? You could have your Morpheus, the wizard, reducing errors and helping your novice people, right? It's a guided flow. It has opinions that control things. Or you could have your Neo, right? It's a single page form that's easier to navigate, has everything all in the same place, right? The real question for us is not like what's better. It's more about what behavior are you trying to change? What problem are you solving for? And what incentive is there to solve that specific problem? Is this about like helping your new users learn the platform? You know, or is this more about helping people go through a form quickly and have lots of creative freedom, do fields in any order of operations? Maybe they need to revisit content. Maybe you're trying to reduce errors. You have to know. So, the thesis. UX is not about making things pretty. UX is about user behavior, and teams want products that matter and make waves for their users. UX is the study and the practice of marrying that user experience with your business goals for the very thing. Looking pretty is kind of the byproduct of this focus, and so we shouldn't frame UX as taste or like looks or making decision via opinion battles or designed by council, which is actually code word for death, or even saying as like great UX versus our revenue driving features. And in this talk, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about turning design and UX decisions into strategy that you've mapped into your outcomes related to driving business goals. And this will help you, designers out there, or maybe if you work with designers, this will maybe help you talk to your designers a little bit and prompt them to talk about things the right way and reframe these requests from time to We're gonna restart. We're gonna restart the whole thing now. We're gonna go back in time. Reframe everything into talking about how do you turn this thing of I want it to look pretty, but that's not like where you start. That's where you end. So where does UX even come from? UX is user experience, which is actually the experience of a user, which is actually the feeling a person gets when they use a product, which, as you can imagine, humans and feelings, there's like infinite human feelings. But our favorite ones tend to be the ease of use, the positive intuition, the delight, the engagement, other behavior levers that lead a person to adopt and want more of your product. And accessibility also, like Malik was just talking about, gets as a part of this. Part of getting roped in here, trying to measure, define what appropriate minimum standards exist for software interfaces. And UX is not just these feelings, even though it's part of like exploring and understanding your user audience and like what moves people, what drives them, what motivates them. It's just the underscoring framework for how you do that. Some notable examples we have, actually UX is not even a term that existed until 1988 when good old Don Norman, whether you like him or dislike him, wrote a book called The Design of Everyday Things, which officially made UX a term, replacing the phrase before that was system design, user-centered system design. That's a phrase that got coined in 1940s by Toyota when they were working on assembly lines, and they were talking to people who worked on the assembly line to improve their assembly line, which sounds super novel. Talk to people about improving the thing that they work on every single day. Turns out, though, it worked really well for them. We also have even like design in the aspect of people like OXO. I don't know is it OXO or is it OXO? OXO. Okay. So OXO started when a guy, Sam, noticed that his wife would struggle a lot with kitchen utensils. And so he's like, well, let's just make a better handle. let's make a better handle for this. And then they started their company. And I don't know about you, but OXO or OXO, they seem to be doing pretty good. You know, I go to Target, I see them a lot. That's pretty good. I go to Walmart, you see them a lot. You go pretty much anywhere, you see them a lot in the kitchen appliances. And that's just about someone who saw a way to improve an outcome. What happens when your UX isn't really UX though? You're working on a software product. You make the thing, and someone says good old classic. And guys, don't hate on me. I love a classic. But when they say that classic, can you make it pop? And you know, like that really only goes so far, right? That has this. What are we gonna do, right? And so in a world where decisions about UX or UI come down to these personal opinions, you're moving slower, and you have to hash things out and try to please everyone. And you're making worse decisions all along the way. And whose opinion are you designing around anyways? That U in UX is not for you. It is for you, but the U is for user, not you, the person. It's you we're moving on. So let's take a look at this from our business lens. Users drive business outcomes. We know that. That's like the thing. So the people who are your users determine the fate of your business, and design is all about the user experience within your business product. What maniac has ever set their business goal as make it look pretty, right? That's not a viable business. If your business has a goal and your business thesis is make it look pretty, you might be in the wrong business. And I don't know, maybe you're doing great, but that's not going to work for most people. And designers out there, when you join a team, where you join a project, you're doing anything, before you have your heyday of suggesting improvements and projects, you should do everything you can to understand and get embedded in the context of your team. You need to strive to understand what actually constitutes value for them. Otherwise, yes, the logo might look weird. Yes, the colors might be weird. The UI might seem a little outdated. But if you're just suggesting improve these things based on looks alone, that is going to just be noise and takes up a lot of team bandwidth. You need to ground yourself in the context of your team and understand what are the levers that are making value for you. We measure business outcomes via things like revenue stream, new user acquisition, and you want to make decisions that lead users to support your outcomes, such as become paying customers. That sounds pretty good to me. Better lifetime value, repeat purchases, perhaps. Other words, save the user, save the business, right? So translating all this, we're going to make design decisions targeting user behavior changes that support and influence specific business metrics, leading to favorable business outcomes. It is a mouthful of a sentence, and I actually submitted this to review for someone before I did this slide, and they left a comment on this, and they said, "Is that a real English sentence? Like, you should maybe rewrite this." I was like, "This is the thesis. This is like the thing. Like, I can't rewrite this. This is the whole thing." So here it is. It is a real sentence. We're gonna break this down. So, map decisions and UX work to your users. And then how do you measure user activity and behavior, right? And then what impact does that have on your business goals? This means that everything you do has a clear, logical pathway to value. And the things you're working on, the proposals you might have, the mindset you bring maps clearly to your outcomes rather than just a look or an aesthetic or a vibe or a trend even about like what is currently, what does it look like when you have a native Stripe component or something like that? And if this makes sense to you, I have phenomenal news for all of you, my captive audience. You are now a UX designer, probably severely underqualified. That's okay though. That's okay. We love a good underdog story. And there's a lot of learnable skills you can pick up along the way. And as a discipline, design has always been about problem solving. So UX design is about defining your right approach and then making sure you can solve problems that way. So there's a lot of resources that can help you design this way. This is just my own version of it, okay? It is the gospel of UX according to Tim Gailey. So, like I said, not a magic bullet, not a one-size-fits-all, just a general guide that you can kind of use to roughly categorize and direct how you want to look at this. I know it's also maybe kind of a little blurry at this scale. I'm not sure, but and this, of course, all this, right? You look at this framework, you're building stuff out. This is almost just like designing with receipts. I did say it. That's the name of the talk. The name of the movie, Design with Receipts. So this is our quick tour, but we'll go through these at great length. What problem are you trying to solve? Can you be specific? What impact are you trying to create? What behavior change in users do you want to see? And what decision can you make about it? So in the context of designing decisions, making decisions that lead to favorable business outcomes, this is a framework for realizing decisions that we should make. And then having the proof that they're sound, because you notice you make decisions at step 4, not step 1. And by step 4, you probably have a pretty good idea of what this needs to look like and how you'd measure success. And there's lots of other parts to this, right? Like you need to talk to users as part of this. You're going to need to do all sorts of things. This is just the outline, the skeleton key, I guess, or a very one context limited skeleton key, maybe. Okay. So 1, we're going to define a problem. It needs to be real. Okay. True goal, something that moves you along, your business. Designers should spend time having clear definitions of what the problem is. Get immersed. Even designers, even when someone hands you something, they might give you a ticket, they might give you a Slack message, they might pass you a note while you're sleeping because they want you to work outside your normal working hours. And just say no to that, by the way. But even when someone hands you something, you need to be wary of assuming that they've given you the real problem. They may not know how to communicate the real problem to you. They may think that maybe you're even better off without that context. And they don't want you to think about the real problem. But you need to know that real problem. In other words, trust no one. Or well, I mean, at least read between the lines a little bit and learn to see what are people actually asking you about? What are they saying? There's real value in grasping to the problem space and getting immersed. And this also helps you set up your context and your environment for real success. And remember, UI being pretty isn't a good enough problem. The logo being too small also doesn't work either, unless that feedback comes from your CEO, in which case maybe that is actually a real problem you should figure about solving, but that's a different thing. Be specific, be clear. When you write your problem correctly, everything else becomes a lot easier to work with. The decisions you need to make become a lot more obvious, and your design receipts, we said again the name of the movie, they work a lot more. They're a lot more coherent. And yeah, there's going to be times when you are asked to solve crap problems that you can't genuinely do anything about other than maybe the one size, the very limited scope of work you can do. But at least it won't be your fault that you're working on that problem because you've thought about it and you know all the angles. 2, what impact are we going to create? If we solve this, what metrics would change? How would you plan to track progress as you work on solutions? Measure the things that matter the most, guys. There are loads of these. They're extremely context dependent, right? But there's almost always something related to your problem that is part of measuring it. If you really cannot figure out how to measure this, you probably don't have a real problem. Because you have a problem, something is telling you that there's a problem. You have that indication. So how do you know that it exists? Let's take back our examples. User with items in their cart are dropping off before checkout, right? If we address task abandonment rate, we are improving revenue from recovering users who are ready to convert. And add some numbers to that, just think about what that means in like actual revenue. Now you have a very motivating, incentivizing problem that you need to solve. Or looking at users with a 25% error rate on the publishing form. If we reduced error rate in those submissions, that might also reduce our support requests and get back engineering time. So now we're not only defining good problems, we're also clearly outlining reasons to solve them. And yes, users like it, logo is bigger, not true, not good enough for this section. 3, what behavior change in users do we want to see? I've labeled this at the bottom a little bit sneakily. What will users do differently? Because that's really the true metric of how to look at this. And this is because problems in the UX space need to be contextualized to the people who are experiencing your problem. Some examples here, if we talk about like behavior change being also very contextual, qualified users as a group, right? So in this example, they're executing a specific behavior, completing their checkout accurately for submitting forms is a great behavior change. In this case, it's not one even they're necessarily intentionally doing. We're just making it a lot easier for them to accurately submit their forms. And now you've reached the actual design part. This is the open canvas spot, the white page effect, except when you're reaching your design part of the canvas, you've already done a lot of the work. You already know your strong paper trail and thought process that will help inspire you for this type of solution that you're seeking out. And so this is your framework for finding solutions that actually matter and worth spending time on as a designer on your teams. And write your decisions like engineers, don't write improve checkout flow, instead something like reduce checkout flow from 5 steps to 2, add your inline validations, show order summaries on the payout screen, not things like make the CTA pop or update color 5 for XYZ reason. Make sure they're all attached. At this point, you need to tell people about how you're the greatest designer in the world. You're just going to go work backwards. You have a receipt now, right? We have this whole thing that basically tells the story. Why did you choose this solution? Now you get to tell everyone that you're the greatest designer in the world for them at that time, possibly, perhaps, or maybe of all time. I don't know. You're just going to work backwards. Talk about your impact, talk about your decision, and then talk about who or what the effect was for. If you are still here, you can click this. I think it's like a little face stamp. Oh, it just puts your face on there if you're logged in. Most of you aren't logged in though. So this is it, guys. Design with receipts. Designers, if you're out there, which I'm sure there's maybe like one of you out there, or now all of you can be honorary UX designers when you are mapping your user behavior to impacts and measuring that impact in a way that can tell a story that motivates and incentivizes your team to create certain solutions. And that is designing with receipts. Thank you.